Welcome to the Low Post Podcast. The NBA playoffs start in 2 days. We know 6 of the 8 series. After tomorrow's final 2 play-in games, we will know all 8, but we can't wait that long. You need time to listen and digest and prep. So in the name of the basketball gods, we call upon what is now an annual tradition. It used to be the 8x8, 8 minutes apiece for 8 first-round series podcasts. It's now, I don't know, the 10x6 and a couple minutes on the 1-8 series. We don't know. And we always do it because we need to be smart. We need to get smarter. We need to know the X's and O's, the themes. With Of True Hoop, the author of Basketball is Jazz, David Thorpe. How are you?
Zach, I'm well. Thank you for asking. And I just have to say, I always look forward to your podcast so much. Sometimes we get blessed to get them 2 in a week. And I do my morning walk, which I've been doing for a long time now. And first thing I always do is to check to see if you drop something. And all this week, the habit is, I wonder who Zach's talking to about the playoffs, because I just forget that it tends to be me. And I'm always so disappointed that I'm the one that has to talk, and so I get to listen to Kirk and KP or whomever. But we're going to do our best to get smarter with each other for sure.
As always, I have ordered these series as the dictator of this podcast in my level of interest in them, starting with the most interesting to the least interesting of the 6. We will mention, as an aside, the 1-8 possibilities later, but we obviously don't know them. I have already revealed to you that my most exciting first-round series, and I would argue there are 4 candidates for this spot. You could pick any of the 4. And then there are 2 that are kind of like, we'll get to them. Still, we'll give them their due. Number 1 on my list, just an irresistible matchup. So irresistible that it veered into the cartoonish earlier this year during the Shannon Sharp, Dylan Brooks brouhaha. The Los Angeles Lakers, the number 7 seed, going to the Memphis Grizzlies, the number 2 seed. And it's not just irresistible because of the sort of the aging lion of LeBron James against the young, up-and-coming, audacious Memphis Grizzlies and all the Shannon Sharp nonsense and all that. The Grizzlies, this version of them, I mean, I think they put themselves on the national map with a game in Los Angeles when that was the game when Kyle Anderson, back when he was a member of the Memphis Grizzlies, talked you know what to LeBron, which nobody does. And that was the same game when John Morant did the Superman 2-handed block on Avery Bradley, I believe, on the backboard in transition. Everyone's like, oh my God, this team is not messing around. And if Steven Adams or Brandon Clark, if just one of them were healthy, I don't even need both, I would be pretty aggressively all in on Memphis to win this series, despite the fact that I think most of the media is probably going to pick the Lakers, who are 19-8 in their last 27 games. They've been a very, very good team now for a significant sample size. But I like a lot of what I like a lot of what Memphis can still bring in this series. But if you just gave them one more big, I would like their combination of sort of brutishness. And the Lakers, although they played fast this year, they were a really bad transition defense team. And they don't like these like young, energetic, flying around, athletic teams, and who just don't want to be in your face, create chaos, get out in transition. And that's the Grizzlies to a T. And even in the half court, you got Desmond Bane running around, just flying around. And I think D'Angelo Russell will be guarding Desmond Bane for good chunks of the series. And that's a good way to punish D'Angelo Russell, just run his ass around. I like a lot of what Memphis has in this series. I don't know who I'm going to pick, but if they had one of those guys, I think I'd pick them. As of now, I'm still undecided. What interests you about this matchup, Coach?
Well, you did a pretty good job of summarizing a lot of my thoughts. It is an old versus young, really athletic versus super skilled and crafty, certainly in the best players for the Lakers. Although they have a lot of skilled guys. Lakers, Pelinka built a heck of a team. There's a lot of talent on that team. And I agree with you totally that especially if Adams played, LeBron is past the age now where he likes to crack back and block out the other team's big. When AD goes to block a shot, he ain't messing around with that. Adams would crush them if that was the case. It won't be as hard now without him. But what interests me the most, which I think is the biggest story, I alluded this to you in a text earlier, I have to always remind myself to, in the world of physics, you have to think of the biggest forces that affect us first. And I do this all the time as a teacher. Gravity always wins. The gravity in this series, in my opinion, is Darvin Ham. I thought he was bad all season. Doesn't mean he didn't do some good things, and they're playing pretty well. I know he's a rookie coach, and coaches can always get better and often do. That's just like anything else. But I think his knee-jerk reaction, and he's not the only one in the playoffs that does this, is to keep going back to his stars. And that's exactly what Memphis needs. Even if they drop a game of the first two, and even 2-2 after 4, Dillon Brooks wears people out. He is a very physical defender. Jaren Jackson, we know what he can do defensively. I think he's the defensive player of the year. LeBron James was exhausted at the end of that play-in game. That's why he kept throwing the ball to the bad guys and making one terrible, terrible play after another. Zach, tired players make mental mistakes constantly. And I think this is a youth versus age and experience battle. And I think youth is heavily favored in this, certainly with that extra guy. I think they're going to wear that team down. I don't trust Darvin to just play what I think is a deep bench and give those guys a break. We're going to see 38-plus minutes every game from those two stars, and I think the Grizzlies can wear them down.
I think the Grizzlies can definitely win the series. Like I said, if they had just one of those two bigs, and particularly Adams, who is just a one-man offensive rebounding team. I mean, by himself, he makes you an elite offensive rebounding team. And without him, they're just kind of average. Look, we talked about this over text. There's one obvious theme here that should concern the Grizzlies and concerns me picking the Grizzlies. Look, Dillon Brooks is going to guard LeBron. He'll be the primary assignment on LeBron. Jaren Jackson can guard Anthony Davis. And when he does guard Anthony Davis, that's a pick and roll you can actually switch without that much pain. Like, yes, AD will hurt Dillon Brooks in the post, but Dillon Brooks is like a cinder block, man. You're not going to move him. He's going to make you earn it. You got to help and load a little bit, but like, that's not a painful switch. And step one to beating the Lakers is if you can switch that two-man game, you got a shot. Now, I bet they'll start games with Tillman at center and guarding Anthony Davis, so Jaren Jackson can roam off of Vanderbilt. That both protects Jaren Jackson from the big issue that we're about to talk about, which is fouls. If Brooks and Jackson are guarding LeBron and AD a lot, the Lakers were second in free throw rate on offense and first in free throw rate on defense. They're walking into every one of these games with like an 8-0 advantage just from free throws. And without Clark and without Adams, and by the way, Jaren Jackson Jr. was often their second choice on LeBron when Dillon Brooks rested during the regular season. I just don't know that they can survive foul trouble to one or both of those guys. And foul trouble to both of them in the same game is going to be a catastrophe. And that's the obvious spotlight issue in this series. It's the one the Grizzlies fans are going to be looking for because they're going to cry conspiracy as soon as the officiating starts to tilt against them. The Lakers are really good at forcing the issue. I think the Grizzlies bring some tools on defense to this series that can really, really wear the Lakers, not wear them down, but make it harder for the Lakers to score, even when they have the floor spread, even when they take Vanderbilt off the floor and they just put shooting around LeBron and AD. I think the Grizzlies have some pretty powerful defensive answers to that. I just worry that fouls are gonna limit their ability to really, really deploy those for as many minutes as they need to.
Well, I think you kind of buried, just because all those smart things you said, I think you kind of buried what maybe is the biggest story connecting to the foul issue, and that is the ability to switch those screens, not just with Triple J and Brooks, but also with Tillman. Tillman's lighter on his feet than I think people realize. He defends AD, I thought, pretty well. They might even let him try LeBron. And you have to remember this: when the Lakers, the Lakers had Thomas Bryant, like poised to have the greatest offensive season, minutes a part of it of all time. Like, it was crazy. And that was LeBron pick and rolls. He can't play in Denver. They have no LeBron on their team. No one knows how to pass the ball and pick and roll for them, except for Jokic, who never plays when Thomas does. The Lakers aren't going to have that advantage if Memphis can switch it and not foul. And so, to me, the first step in fixing a problem is absolutely knowing that it's there and addressing it. And I think Taylor Jenkins is absolutely elite as a coach, maybe top 5 in the world for professional athletes. there's no question. It's in big red ink all over the locker room. We cannot foul. As someone who teaches the game for a living, you can help guys not foul. It challenged their discipline, right? It's not about toughness here. It's about the discipline of make them make those shots over you. Don't reach, don't grab. And if they beat you, they beat you. Save that foul later on. Give them the 2 points. And help is coming anyway. That doesn't mean they'll do it, because part of Memphis's issue is they're so full of energy. They're so full of testosterone, and that is to their disadvantage. But I think if they can go 2-2 after 4, I think you'll see a much more fatigued Laker team, and you'll see them struggle in fourth quarters, and Memphis can win.
What Jaren Jackson Jr. really needs to do, and he's going to, like I said, he's going to split time between Rover and guarding AD.
For sure. Yeah.
And they'll even make him a Rover when the Lakers are small and AD is the only big on the floor. They'll stick him on Troy Brown Jr. sometimes, on Rui, and say, Rove. He's really got to avoid offensive fouls. Like, I don't mind if you commit some defensive fouls. These illegal screen fouls that he's piling up, those are the ones that take you out of the game, and you're not even getting any advantage, really, by committing those fouls. On the other end of the floor, what worries me for Memphis is this is the 22nd rated half-court offense in the league against a really, really great defensive team, a very good defensive team that has a lot of answers for what Memphis likes to do, namely Anthony Davis on Jaren Jackson Jr., which is a tough matchup for anybody. I thought AD was as good defensively as anyone in the league this year, other than maybe Jaren Jackson Jr. And on Morant, this team, a feather in Darvin Ham's cap, I would say, has been one of the more aggressive teams going under screens on Morant. And they'll probably open with Austin Reeves on him, I would guess. They've used Vanderbilt on him, too, at times when the Grizzlies only have one big on the floor. We'll see if we see that. And daring Morant to beat them with jump shots and long floaters. And Morant is good enough to beat you in some games just with floaters. He will make enough floaters to punish that defense, and the Lakers will adjust, and they can adjust. But I worry a little bit about Memphis scoring enough in a series that becomes a complete slowdown half-court rock fight. And I think they're going to need to get a requisite amount of transition points off turnovers, whatever, to win this series. And the Lakers do not turn the ball over a lot on offenses. Most LeBron teams tend to. They take care of the ball. That's how Memphis gets enough points in the half court in this series is a big plot line to me.
Yeah, I mean, they've got obviously some great shooters that are shooting it really well. Luke doesn't miss these days. But I think what you're saying goes to what I was suggesting about fatigue factor. Well, that's on Memphis to race. And that's on Memphis to push on makes and misses. Just cross the timeline 3 seconds upon getting possession. That millisecond you get possession, you're gone. I would stress that with Tyus, who doesn't like to run as much as Ja. Guys, we are racing all the time. The Lakers started the season racing. They have slowed down considerably. I mean, they're still, I think, 14th or 15th last 15 games in pace, but they're not top 5. And they were really racing early. They need to focus on that, Memphis does, and get into that age. Make those 2 superstars run, not just run, race. Get them to have to play with urgency a ton. And here's the thing, Zach. Maybe it's recency bias, but I watched that Minnesota game. If those were high school players making some of the passes the Lakers made late, they would be benched. Like this is still that team. They've been playing so much better. Really, after that first 1-9 start, they've been one of the better teams, even with their old team. And then, of course, this new and improved team. Russell not playing was kind of weird. I just think he's going to go with the old group that he had before the trade deadline a lot, which is fine. And I think Memphis can wear those guys down. I think those first, obviously Memphis has to get 1 of 2 at home. That goes without saying. If they get two in a row, I think they're going to cruise in the series. Well, I wouldn't be surprised if Lakers win 1.
They've been a great home team all year. I think they finished 35-6 at home.
Right.
You mentioned flying. I think it's just imperative. Bane and Kennard. And it'll be interesting to see how often they play the 2 of them together with Morant, how often they risk that defensively. They need to run and run and run in the half court.
Yep.
And why I say interesting how much they play together is fundamentally the Lakers with a 6'8" greatest of all time, maybe ball handling apex predator, are just more equipped to hunt in the postseason and play matchup ball than the Grizzlies are. And he's going to hunt Ja. He's going to hunt Bane. He's going to hunt Kennard. And we'll see how they do it and what form that takes. The Grizzlies aren't quite built to do that in the same way with an on-ball creator, the way that LeBron can do it. So that's part of what interests me. It sounds like you're picking Memphis.
Yeah, I just want to touch on something you said. If I see LeBron getting downhill a ton, that's a problem that I'm not expecting. I think LeBron is taking more jumpers than ever in this series. I think in Minnesota game, his fatigue certainly mattered. Yeah, I got Memphis in 6 right now, and I agree. I think it'd be Memphis in 4 or 5 if they had Steven, but they don't. And the Lakers can win this series, but I think Memphis has a big advantage.
I'm going to wait till the last minute to submit my official pick on this. I want to think about it a little more and watch a little more film, but I'm leaning Memphis in 7. I think it's a coin flip series. They can go either way, and I just would lean to who has game 7 at home.